Meantime, geopolitics, as you might imagine, front and center. The UK blocked some of the arms exports to Israel, and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to New York right now saying that sent a, quote, horrible message. I asked Starmer why he thinks that Netanyahu, he believes, is wrong.
Look, I support Israel's right to self-defense. What happened on the 7th of October was the most appalling terrorist attack, the worst loss of life since the Holocaust. And that went very deep, and we have been very clear in our support of Israel's right to self-defense. Within international law, our domestic legislation is very clear about the conditions in which we can allow arms licenses to go ahead. Right. We reviewed that and came to a clear decision. Having got a decision that they ought to be suspended, I wasn't then going to put it on one side. I was going to implement it. So I think it is perfectly possible, perfectly reasonable and right to say we support Israel's right to self-defense, but as we would with any country in the world, within the context of international law.
Well, within the context of international law, do you then say that the U.S. is breaking international law by continuing to provide different arms to Israel?
No, we talked to our US colleagues about this. We talked before our decision. I was over with President Biden just 2 weeks ago. But it's a different regime. It's a different legal test in the US. So this isn't comparable. It's not a criticism. It's simply we have our own test in the UK. We've applied that test. And the result is we've suspended a small number of licenses. The US has a slightly different approach, and they've taken a different approach.
Do you think that's the right approach? Or it's not your approach?
No. I mean, look, we passed our own legislation, and I think we're bound to follow our own legislation. But that shouldn't be taken as, nor is it, a criticism of the US. We work very closely with the US. We're very close allies. Been a special relationship for a very long time politically, but at the moment, as we've got this volatility in the Middle East and in Ukraine, then the way in which we're working together with the US, I think, is as close as it's ever been, and that's why I had an extended session with President Biden just a couple of weeks ago in Washington to talk through these difficult issues and to test our approaches with each other.
As it relates to Ukraine, Zelensky is asking the U.S. for more arms, as you know. Do you think the U.S. should be giving them, and do you think they should have given them already?
Well, look, I'm not going to comment on what the U.S. should or shouldn't be doing. They've been a key ally, key supporter of Ukraine. The NATO summit here that was hosted in the U.S. Was a very powerful statement of NATO allies in support of Ukraine. President Zelensky was happy with the outcome. Of course, we listened very carefully to any requests for further capability from the Ukrainians. We discussed that with our allies, as you would expect, because we have to be clear that Russian aggression cannot succeed. And that is why the resolve is there to support Ukraine for as long as is necessary. And we always listen to what they say about additional capability.
Last night, the Prime Minister met with former President Trump in New York City. The two had never met face-to-face, and I asked Starmer about his interest in meeting both Trump and Vice President Harris in this final stretch of the presidential race.
It's for the American people to decide who they want as their president. We, the UK, will, of course, work with whoever the president is. We've got a special relationship politically which sits above the particular office in either country, but it's for the American people to decide who they want as president. We will work with whoever is president.
Let me ask you this, though. The mayor of London, who you know very well, said, what I'd say in a respectful way to Americans is, and this is about our election, he says, I don't think you realize that the rest of the world is watching because we've got skin in the game. What happens in America is the metronome that sets the beat of what happens across the globe. It sets the beat for how other politicians behave in an election campaign. What do you think of that?
Well, look, the Mayor of London is entitled to his views. He's a colleague, a friend of mine. I've known him best part of 25 years. But I'm the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I understand the special relationship. And it is for the American people to decide who they want as their president. And we will work with whoever is the president of the US. How do you think
the rest of the world perceives this in particular election in the US and what's happening?
With huge interest. It's Undoubtedly a hugely important election, a very close election. I think all of us are watching intensely.